IlluviTalks music here. What's up, everybody? It's the fall of big tech. It's actually happening right now, and the rise of GameFi. In today's episode, we're going to talk about whether big tech falling is actually a boon for GameFi or whether it's a headwind. Are new revenue streams opening up for gaming creators in GameFi? And will esports growth accelerate once more? Once Web3 tech is implemented, this is going to be a really exciting episode. We've got an exciting panel here today. The evolution of esports, we're going to dive into it and talk about Web3 creators. And everything we talk about in this episode is not financial advice, though it may be insightful for all of you guys to learn. This is the show where we lead the conversation about the future of gaming, and I promise you'll learn at least 2 new insights, technology insights, guaranteed. Namely because of our first guest, Luello, the Grand Emperor of Esports. I made that title up. A former Hearthstone and Teamfight Tactics professional player, tournament organizer, guild owner, and content creator. Here he is right here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andrew. Very happy to be here. Thank you for the invite. I'm Luello. I'm from Paris, France. I'm 29. I've been doing esports for quite some time now, and I'm really happy to be able to discuss all those topics with you guys.
So happy to have you. Also on the panel, the crown. We have lots of royalty here today, friends. The crown prince of crypto games and content creator who's very tired right now, Vulcan in the house. What's up, Vulcan?
Hey mate, how are you? Thanks for having me on again. Yeah, but it's about it's 4 a.m. now, so kids didn't sleep, which is fantastic. If I look like shit, that's why.
You look wonderful and totally not like dog shit.
Yeah.
Vedamore's in the house as well. Also royalty, the Imperial Chancellor and Galactic Vice President of Illuvium's Council and content creator in the house. What's up, Vedamore? How you doing, buddy? Oh, you're muted, buddy.
Oh shit!
No, you're good. I can hear you now.
I'm here.
You're good.
I'm here. Okay. I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be here.
Perfect. Look at the styles, man. Look at this guy's room. He's got the orange light down there, the pink mic. He's got the hair going. God, man, his setup's looking so good. It's looking super clean. I'm a big fan. Okay, let's get straight into the episode, my friends. Talking about the fall of big tech. This is actually not just clickbait, my friends. We've got a lot of things happening right now in the news, and I want to piece this together for all of you so you can see what's happening in big tech, and then let's discuss, guys. So first things first, Apple reportedly has begun layoffs and is preparing yet another return to the office push. When you start seeing indicators like this in the market, you have to start asking yourself, why would they be doing layoffs? Obviously, there's a downturn in the economy and a downturn in the stock market. If we look at the NASDAQ composite, we can see that tech stocks are down 23% on the year, not good. And all major tech companies, even if they do have a huge cash reserve, have to start trimming up, have to start letting people go, have to start reducing the number of projects that they're doing, experimental research and development that they're doing, and go into survival mode. Also, as a part of this story, we see that Google is now shutting down Google Stadia. This is not a surprise to anyone that's been paying attention to this project, but Google Stadia is their big gaming platform that they were going to launch. They were going to have creators on it. It was going to be integrated into YouTube, game streaming, a whole new revenue stream, a controller, everything. All linked up, now completely shutting down, offering refunds to everybody that bought in on this failing gaming platform. And the last piece of evidence we have today, there's a bunch, but this is just another one, is sell-offs of assets within the big tech space. And this big sell-off I want to highlight here, of course, is the story you all saw of Tesla selling their Bitcoin, billions of dollars in Bitcoin being sold, 75% rather of its entire Bitcoin holdings were sold earlier this year. Why do big tech companies sell off assets? Well, that's because they're preparing for a downturn for their company in terms of revenue. They don't tell you that because that would further push their stock price and their valuation down. But of course, you don't sell your assets unless things are looking bad for your company financially, or you see a poor outlook for your technology company. So with all of that context here, I want to kick it over to Vetamore. Big tech looks like it's having a tough time. They're selling off assets. They're laying people off. The entire market is looking lower, and they're shutting down projects and experimental projects. So this is clearly marking a turning point for big tech. Is the fall of big tech a boon for Web3 projects, or is it a headwind for us in this space? What are your thoughts, Vetamore?
See, like, I've got a totally different take on this, just in the sense of, like, I don't think that anything that you said actually suggests the fall of big tech. I don't think there's a fall of big tech coming anytime soon. What I think is it's a bear market right now generally, and like financially, it's looking like it might be a tough 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know how many years, and it just looks like they're just trimming the fat off that's just not necessary. They're cutting back on experimental stuff because they were just so damn bullish before that they were doing dumb shit just because they got to cut back on it so that they can do what they do best and improve at what they're doing, but like create greater efficiency within their companies and just like, do you know what I mean? It's like, that's exactly what people say about crypto when crypto goes down. Like, they always say that crypto dies, but it doesn't mean that it actually dies. It comes back. What's happening is all the projects that are not really adding value, that have been like just making money for like stupid reasons almost, they're just disappearing because they didn't actually have intrinsic value. And that's what's being cut back within Google, for example. Like Stadia is being cut back. That doesn't mean that all of Google's gonna fall. I think it's here to stay, if I'm personally honest. But what does this mean for like crypto and GameFi? I mean, we're in the same position. Like everything's falling here as well. We're probably doing cutbacks on our end as well. But I think it's good more than anything because all the projects that were actually making GameFi look dog shit, honestly, are dying because they're becoming more and more just like obvious what they are, and people don't have spare money right now to invest in dog shit. So the cream will rise to the top, and the cherry on top, IMO, is Illuvium.
That's interesting. So you're saying that all these big tech companies that are the most valuable companies in the world, they're not going to die, they're going to thrive, and they're actually being responsible right now in trimming the fat in their companies and making sure that they're preparing for the oncoming recession. And these are not signs of weakness. Maybe you're saying these are signs of strength and of being a responsible management team. Is that a fair summary of your point?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. Got it. So big tech is here to stay. Vetamore loves them. I put that word in his mouth. So let me ask you this. So are we going to see big tech then as we go through this transition, this technology transition from Web 2 to Web 3? All these big tech companies are Web 2 companies. Do we see big tech handily and willingly integrating Web 3 technology into their platforms, maybe as we move through this recession and we move out of this recession? Do we think that they're going to copycat Web 3 tech that already exists? Do we think that they're going to have new innovations? Are they going to do both or neither? So what's your opinion on that, Vulcan? Do you see these big tech companies integrating Web 3? And if so, in what regard?
Yeah, like I definitely think they will, but it's not going to be like an all-in thing. Just purely off the basis that you've got something that works, and I know you're a big one that talks about this all the time in content creation and stuff like that. And it's the same principle. It's like you don't want to do a complete 180 change because you've already got your thing, but you also don't want to get left behind. So you're going to dip your toe in. We saw a lot of it during the bull run where, you know, a lot of the Web 2 companies were sort of, you know, starting to mention crypto and all that stuff. You obviously had Facebook with the Meta. Now, obviously, they weren't speaking directly to crypto, but, you know, it was in there. So I think they all will get into it, but on a small scale and not go all in until it's 100% confirmed. And that kind of leads into what Vetamore was saying about trimming the fat and stuff. It's you just don't want it. You play. I feel like once you get to a certain size, you got to play lower risk, and the lower risk is just dipping your toe in and not going too heavy. As for how they'll do it, I think the smart thing would be to find people excelling in the space and just bring them on and develop from there. So I feel like getting getting a level where it's already developed at, and then if you really want to push, then developing from there with the best would be the way to go.
Acquiring Illuvium for $100 billion? Sure. We're open to offers right now, Microsoft and Apple and everybody. Absolutely. Acquire the best software. All right. So we have seen with Web 2 companies, big tech, adopting Web 3. We've already seen Reddit integrate. They just integrated NFTs into their platform. I don't know if you noticed. They just solicited me for Reddit NFTs and to integrate a wallet on my app. Twitter's integrated NFTs, Instagram's integrated NFTs. Everybody's integrating NFTs in Web 2 tech. So the question is this a trend we're going to maybe see continue? What are your thoughts on this, Loello? Do you think everybody's going to inevitably shift those avatars to NFTs, and this is just one layer of Web 3 tech we're going to see on all these social platforms and digital platforms? What are your thoughts on that?
To be honest, I think NFTs have a really bad press nowadays, and those big movement we see with Reddit, as you said, and with all those big tech companies moving forward to NFTs and finding new use cases for this technology, I think is kind of inevitable. I think it's gonna happen no matter what, and it's like the game theory, like the first people move, the first companies we see moving to this technology and using them are gonna be the biggest companies in the future. So it's like a risky game, but as my friend said before me, since we are in a bear market, it's time to build.
That totally makes sense. So the question, and this is a clickbaity question, are you guys ready? So the question is, my friends, are we sort of in a .com bust and .com boom phase right now with Web3? Have we reached that phase with this technology? The reason why, here's a fun headline for you. So have you guys ever heard of the company Enron? If you haven't heard of it, it used to be the biggest company in the entire world in the year 2000, by far. Look at it compared to every other company. Bigger than Microsoft, Dell, Chevron, everything. Completely dominating the entire world. Where is Enron today? Nowhere is where it is. And this happened during the dot-com boom and the dot-com bust. Obviously, there was a scandal with Enron that caused issues for them. But the point is, when we moved into a technological shift, as we moved into the web and internet, Web 1, Web 2, the companies like Enron just failed to be relevant anymore and just disappeared off the face of the earth, essentially. And other companies ended up replacing them at the top of this list, the big tech companies we're talking about right now. So the question, I'm going to open this up to the floor. I'm curious to know what you guys think, but are we going through a massive tech transformation right now? Is this the Web3 tech transformation? Is this our .com boom and bust? Are we going to see big Enrons of our time, if you will, just disappear over the next 10 years as Web3 comes into play? With every technological shift, some mega players vaporize. That's just what happens in disruption. The floor is open, guys. Do you think we're in that boom and bust phase right now? Or have we yet to see the boom and bust phase for Web3? What do you think, guys?
You go, Vedamore. You look keen. Oh, no, yeah, he's up.
I'm always keen, bro. I'm happy to. Yeah, almost like exactly what you said. But when you see that long list, you see Enron as huge, and then it dies. But like a bunch of those other companies made it. So there's a lot of big tech companies out there. There's Microsoft, there's Apple, we've got Facebook, we've got like Google, loads of big tech companies. It's not like it's just one. What I also see happening as well, like in gaming, is a lot of these bigger companies are starting to just buy out smaller ones to sort of diversify their portfolio. Maybe what we see is like we all just forget about Facebook because that's just for boomers or whatever. Like, I definitely think that things will amalgamate into just like the ones that survive and then the ones that don't. But like, I feel like corporations and big tech is getting more adaptive and better at adapting, because there's like such diverse teams within these. Maybe just Enron just had like some really old school leaders, and they were just completely unopen to taking in new ways of like creating things and business models. Whereas all of the current tech companies, I think they have like ways in which new ways of doing things do come through up their chain. I still think that they should move slowly because they have to, and that's the place where we have this huge opportunity in Web3 to have that first mover advantage. They still own part of it though, in a way. For example, like Illuvium, we're building this huge Web3 game. I'm pretty sure that we still have to pay like Unreal Engine 5%, because that's just the way the Unreal Engine works. So they just got 5% of almost all of the good games going right now. So that's ways in which they supply platforms. I think we're going to be using Amazon servers. That's big tech. That's Amazon. That's got nothing to do with Web3, but we're still integrating that. So they've created a ton of services, and I think like Web3 new people that are creating and building right now, we're going to create these like huge things. But then like Web2 huge companies that are a bit more open-minded will come in, adopt, and then they almost have more capital to build further. But yeah, definitely only the strong will last.
Got it. I mean, the big tech companies right now have insane balance sheets too. They've got 40, 50, $100 billion plus cash sitting in their reserves in the case of Google, where they can just buy up disruptive technology that comes along. So obviously that will be a part of the story. Any other thoughts on whether this is a .com boom or bust? Otherwise, we're going to move on to our next topic.
Well, I thought you were going to say something earlier. Or
Yeah,
are you good,
you got
mate?
something to say, buddy?
No, I was gonna say the same thing, so I'm not gonna repeat.
Got
Yeah.
it. We've got agreement on this topic. Go, Vulcan.
Yeah, I think Vettermore pretty well summed it up. It's one of those things, like not everyone can make it. It's just, there's going to be a lot coming in. I think the Web2 companies will still have a lot of sway because you've got all the eyeballs and everything like that. And it'll just be a flushing out of everything. And pretty much like Vettermore said, the best will stay, and that's about it.
Makes sense. I don't think we're in a .com boom or bust cycle yet. I think we might do that in the next bull, after the next bull run. I think we have yet to see peak frenzy over Web3 and Metaverse in our space. And once we see that, then I think we'll see the true bust. Just my opinion. Really quick, you guys can catch this show on literally every single audio platform in the world by going to illuvium.buzzsprout.com. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, CastBox. Have you ever heard of Podcast Index? Who cares? You can listen to this show there too. Audio version of IlluviTalks available for you not only in video format on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, but also on every audio platform for your listening pleasure. Gentlemen, let's move to the next topic then. And this one's going to be near and dear to all of your hearts and to everyone's. I was just on an investor call soliciting an extremely rich person, a billionaire, for money for a startup. And what he was telling me is that every project that's pitching him right now is saying marketing is moving away from Web 2. It's moving away from advertising, and it's moving toward creators. And he specifically asked us for the startup, what are you doing with influencers? So even the billionaire boomers out there understand creators are the future of getting people's attention. I mean, just look at this show. It's a bunch of creators here with your attention audience. So let's talk about how creators are going to evolve from the Web 2 world to the Web 3 world. Let me share some fun data with you guys because I like teaching people things and informing you on what's happening in the market, and then we're going to discuss. So, piece of the story number one. Twitch just cut how much money its biggest creators get from subscriptions. Top creators were getting a 70-30 split, and now they're only getting 50-50. Why do Web3 or Web2 creator companies cut the amount of money they're paying their talent? Because they are doing poorly financially, obviously. Twitch has been bleeding money since day one, and they're bleeding even more money today, and they're in bad shape. furthering the story about how Web 2 is struggling in this new economy. But wait, there's more. KSI on TikTok, ever heard of him? One of the biggest gaming creators of all time. He's got 9 million followers. He got 200 million views on a video, and he only made like $3,000 total dollars on his entire TikTok account. That is not good for creators. If one of the biggest creators in the world on the quote-unquote hottest creator platform out there, TikTok, only made $3,000, that bad for Web 2 platforms. So what are creators doing? Well, they're obviously moving to platforms like Patreon, which allows them to do subscription memberships and collect money directly from their followers. There's 250,000 creators here, but there's tens of millions. But even Patreon takes 10% of your revenue to 15% of your revenue, puts it in their pocket. So now in the Web3 space, we've seen players like Rally enter the space and offer a kind of Web3 alternate version for creators to make money and to survive in the Web 2 world. Why are platforms like Rally popping up where you can create a coin, you can sell NFTs, you can make money here? And it's because the Web 2 platforms are not able to compensate creators sufficiently, creating a market opportunity and creating potentially a shift in the creator economy for gaming creators. And this is going to directly impact Metaverse, Web3 gaming, crypto gaming, and of course, everyone on this call. So the question we're going to kick this off with is, how is a Web3 creator going to differ from a Web 2 creator? Vulcan, as literally a Web3 and Web 2 creator yourself, what are your thoughts on this topic? Not me, you. Go.
You're right. Firstly, I want to know what your startup is.
I'm not telling you.
Secondly, I don't think this is one thing that's funny. It's like Web 2 versus Web 3 creator. They're just creators, and it's just what they're in, if that makes sense. I don't think there needs to be a distinction. I think at the moment, like myself and a lot of creators are making separate channels for Web 3 because in the Web 2 space, NFTs, crypto, like if you say it's a really funny thing for me. I'm on a bit of a tangent at the start here, and then I'll readdress it. But
No,
it's a
keep
funny
going.
thing where in the crypto space, if you talk to anyone, they're like, gaming is the future. It's the mass adoption. It's everything. And you're like, okay, that's awesome. And then you go into Web 2 and you say NFT, and everyone's like, get the fuck out. So we're at a point where it's a bit different, and that's why you will see a lot of segregation between the quote unquote Web 2 versus Web 3 content creators in channels and stuff like that, because you don't want to commit suicide on a web when you're playing Web 2 games by saying, oh, here's NFTs and stuff, because it's essentially until you get it gets more adoption and it gets more acceptable, people won't want to make that big jump because it's not received well at the moment.
NFT is a bad word. Crypto is a bad word. You don't want to say it, or your subscribers or your followers will go away, is what you're saying as a Web 2 creator.
Yeah, it's not a great look. No one in Web 2 is impressed with it, and understandably so. Like, has there been a good example yet of a fully launched game in Web 3 that hasn't been a bit of a Ponzi? Everything's pretty much gone pretty poorly so far. So it's going to take a while. It's going to take some proper games to fully release it and to demonstrate it, I think. But as for like Web 2 versus Web 3, when you were talking about the sort of advertising revenue as well with things like TikTok, I think that's also about attention and influence that you have in those videos. When people are swiping through 1 million of them in a day, the revenue share, I don't know how much TikTok makes, but I can't imagine when you watch a TikTok, you're not seeing an ad before it. Whereas you watch a YouTube video, you can see, 1, 2, 3, however long the video is, more ads along the way. So you're getting paid based on what you're earning them as well. So I don't know the deep numbers, but that sort of thing makes sense. Moving on past that with like the Web3 and the Web3 integrations for creators to make money and stuff like that. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of all of it at the moment. I'm a very strange person. Like I despise
Yes, you are.
Patreon. Yeah, I know. I despise Patreon and stuff like that. I just don't think if you're this is a bit of a hot take. I just think for me personally, when I went to go full time into content creation, I didn't want to rely on getting money directly from viewers to be able to maintain my business. Otherwise, I don't think I'm running a very sustainable business model. Obviously, you can. Obviously, like you look at Twitch streaming, everything's driven from, from subscribers, donating subscribers, donations of just money and stuff like that. But this is where like I'm not interested in all those platforms and stuff to make money from your viewers. Yes, you can launch NFTs, you can create tokens and stuff like that. That is something me personally I will steer clear from for a fair while. I find it quite funny. This is just another side tangent. A lot of creators will, shit talk. For instance, I'm in mobile gaming. A lot of people shit talk mobile gaming companies because they bring on, psychologists, and I'm assuming Illuvium is a very similar process where it's like you want to get people hooked on your game, and you want them to keep coming back, and you want them to spend money. And the funny thing for me is when I watch people complain about these companies and stuff like that, is that they're streamers doing the exact same psychological tricks on their audience to get them to donate more subscriptions, donate more money and stuff like that. So it's very thing. And I think eventually everything will just meld in. And, if a platform on Web3 is proving to be a better version of something from Web2, then more people will use it, but it's going to be that sort of steady adoption. Once it gets to a point, more people use it, then more people adopt it, and then it'll just keep going up. So I hope that answered the question a little bit.
It did answer the question. Detailed thoughts. It's a detailed tangent, and I liked it. The question I want to ask then, and I'm going to go to Vetamore with this, will the average person need to become a creator in some capacity to be relevant as we emerge into the Web3 world? Will you be able to be like a normie who's offline and I don't use social media, or I don't use whatever Web3 means in 10 years from now? Or is everyone going to have to create content on the internet to stay a relevant human being as things become increasingly digital?
Part of me hopes like that no, just because that just brings to mind like that Black Mirror episode where everybody literally has a social media presence, and the more likes and like the more hearts you get or whatever, like the higher your status in society. And if you just make like one little mistake, your life's ruined. And it's like, well, that's kind of weird, because we're not actually made to be like that, in the sense that like humans kind of just like a few hundred years ago lived in very small communities, and if someone was fighting on the other side of the world, like you had no idea. You were just enjoying the daisies, like it didn't affect you. Whereas currently, like anything going on affects you. It's a complex thing, but like I also at the same time feel that people should start creating more. Like I think at this point, like everyone should almost write a book, because it's so accessible to do that. We have so much at our fingertips. Like at the same time, 100 years ago, everyone was a peasant. Like literally everyone was a peasant. And then now everyone is a king with the Library of Alexandria, like literally like right here in your hands, in your pockets. We all sleep on like the bed of kings. And it's like, we are literally all individual kings, and our like country or our people is kind of us, because we employ ourselves. We use ourselves as our own work. Like we are like a self-contained thing. And I don't see any reason why people shouldn't develop like public speaking and the ability to like consume information by not just consuming it, but then also sharing it. Because like, personally, like what I found as a content creator, and like I've been doing this before becoming a content creator, I really enjoy learning generally, but then I also like talking about what I've learned, because like sharing that with somebody else, like you learn it even deeper. And then that sort of just like sharing yourself in that way, I personally, that excites me. But I also don't think that is for everybody, because like I know my dad, for example, he's like works in construction his whole life, and he is so satisfied to be in construction, just work with his hands and live his life the way that he wants to. So I think people should be free to not have to be content creators or like public speakers if that's not exciting to them. But I also think that we're moving into a place where like you shouldn't just be like specifically good at one thing, because that makes you super fragile. To be super anti-fragile, you need to be good at loads of things and try different things, and that way your awareness as well, you're not just aware of this one like super niche scientific field of study. You're aware of like, oh, I can do my own electricity, I can like do like repairs in the house, but I can also do this, I can also speak publicly, and like being able to do all these different things, whatever the world brings at you, you're way more anti-fragile. And I think that's what we're moving into, where every individual kind of works for themselves in a way and can be doing multiple things as an endopreneur, like as a not somebody that commands other people, but you just sort of have you are your own business. That kind of a thing.
Yeah, so the trend of self-employment is increasing with the power of the internet and being able to access the Library of Alexandria in your hand, and then being able to reach everyone in the world and have all the business infrastructure at your fingertips. Every human in the world gets to benefit from that. I love it. And being anti-fragile, that makes sense in uncertain times. Luello, I got one to kick over to you. You said you've been wearing that headset on your head for 10 years. Talking into that thing about esports and video games and making online content. Obviously, some money's coming out of that for you, right? The question I want to bring up, and I want to bring up an example here, and I want to get your take on this. Even exchanges like crypto.com are shilling these NFTs created by creators who are getting a cut of these NFTs and are putting some of that money in their pocket. So the reason why I bring this example up is everybody in the Web3 space, not just OpenSea, not just random crypto projects, not just random NFT projects, even the exchanges, sci-fi, everybody is trying to get a piece of that sweet, sweet Web3 dollar and figure out what those new revenue streams for creators are going to be. So the question to you, Luello, is what revenue streams do you see opening up for creators in Web3? Is it any of this nonsense we see right now? Or is it going to be something completely different?
Oh, that's a biggie. Okay. To be honest, we can tell. I think ad revenues, as we know it, are gonna change. We are already seeing a lot of changes in the revenue share on Twitch, like you said, but also on YouTube. I've been impacted myself, and I think a lot of things are changing. I'm not sure how Web3 technology are gonna help improve the revenue of content creators in 10 years, for example. But something really important we have to understand is we are really early, and I think like for example, we just found out about soulbound tokens, like Vitaly was talking about a few weeks ago. I think a lot of new Web3 related technologies are gonna come up, and a lot of new use cases we're gonna find that will improve the revenue of content creators. I think today the NFT, the selling of NFTs, especially the NFTs we see today, are not gonna last. At least not for content creators. I don't believe in that. But yeah, I think it's we don't know what's gonna be invented in the next few years, and that's gonna change a lot of things. We are
You're
really
uncertain.
early. Yeah.
So it sounds like you haven't seen anything yet that's like that's the thing that's gonna take off for creators. And yeah, I agree with that. I think creators making random dumb looking pictures and then minting them on the blockchain for cash, I don't think that that's a sustainable business model. That'll be here in some capacity, in that a talented artist or something can create something, or somebody can make something unique, but that will be niche. I agree. I don't think we've quite seen the solution yet. We're about to move into esports though.
Wait, can I just quickly throw a hot take in.
Hot take.
Hot
Fire
take.
take. Go.
As much as like I believe in the blockchain and in the technology that's there, in the utility that can provide the world, but I also do not think that blockchain is the solution to every problem. There are problems that have Web 2
What?
solutions. Yeah, that's yeah, like there are just not everything needs to be solved by blockchain, and sometimes it's just not necessarily like necessary. Basically, I think it's a solution for the financial system, and then it will then like just trickle into other places. I think it's huge for gaming, but I don't think every single game needs to implement it tomorrow. I think it will over time, but like I don't know, like a role-playing game, does that need an NFT? I don't think it does.
If it can make those legacy gaming companies more cash, you better believe it needs an NFT. But we'll see, right? It'll take time. It'll take time. Just like we saw with Assassin's Creed, they gave away free NFTs and people hated them, right? So that is going to take a bit to catch on. I agree that the trading aspects, the marketplace aspects, and the ownership aspects of what Web3 or blockchain can offer, gaming in particular, is going to be particularly transformative. And that brings me to our sponsor of this episode, Illuvium, who just completely upgraded the Illuvidex. Check out this quick video that's going to show you what happened there, and we'll be right back with our final topic for this episode, I think the best one, esports in competitive gaming. Check out this video and listen to that sweet voiceover.
Illuvium Game Studio is developing a game that combines an exploration looter with a collectible autobattler, where gamers can play and own rewards. We are excited to introduce version 2 of the Illuvidex, our official Illuvium market exchange. It features intuitive analytics, enhanced navigation, improved maps, and additional functionality.
Yeah, that's one sweet voiceover, says the audience. Thank you for that unsolicited take there. Guys, go check out the new Illuvidex. We worked really hard on it. Illuvidex.illuvium.io. We want to improve the marketplace experience for Illuvium and hopefully set an example for the gaming space with one upgrade at a time. So thank you to the team for upgrading that. Just want to make sure you guys check that out. Land is the main thing you can navigate right now. That is particularly interesting. We have more hot topics. Let's talk esports. And obviously we have Luello here, who is literally an esports juggernaut, emperor of esports we talked about earlier. But before we get into the actual questions, let's set the stage on where esports is right now. Statistically, where is this market? Check this out. I'm going to do the quiz. I'm going to do a quiz thing, all right? Because I think it's fun. Okay. In 1 year, Luello, how much money do you think is made in esports sponsorships in 1 year, if you were to guess, globally? You're muted.
Yeah, my bad. All games, I don't know. Maybe something around 500 millions. I would.
500 million is the first guess. Got it.
Yeah.
Vedamore, what's your guess?
I don't even know, man. It depends on a lot. Wait, how big has it been in the past?
I can't say that. It's just a fun guessing game. Global esports revenue, what is it with sponsorships? 1 year.
I'm going to go 250 mil.
250 million,
bear it.
500 million. Vulcan.
I got no bloody idea, but one thing I would be really curious to see is, sorry, I always get off topic, is the revenue generated in that sense and how much actually gets like ins and outs. I want to know how much like off the top profit they're getting on it, because that would be an interesting thing as we move into Web3, like more prizes and related stuff. But let's go 750. Let's go high.
750. Okay, well, I already know the answer, so I'm not going to guess. So here's the breakdown in the esports world in terms of revenue. 641 million. So Luello wins, Price is Right style. If you go over, you lose, by the way, Vulcan. And here's the other revenue streams, just so you can see. So sponsorship is a juggernaut in esports. It's the hugest revenue source by far. Media rights and publisher fees are the next biggest. Then much smaller is merchandise and tickets, digital revenue, and then streaming way down at the bottom, a tiny, tiny portion of revenue. Why am I bringing that up? You don't see tokens, you don't see NFTs, you don't see anything Web3 or blockchain related here in terms of revenue. You're seeing a Web2 and advertising and sponsorship heavy industry. Is this ripe for disruption? Is the question. We're going to bring that up in just a moment. Some other statistics. Viewership is kind of plateauing, and growth in esports viewership is kind of not as impressive year over year. So in terms of viewing video game content, roughly 50% of viewership for a long time has been esports, and then 50% of viewership is non-esports. The trend is that it's going up slowly, but look at the percentage change. That was changing by 27%, 13% year over year, and the change has slowed down. So the share that esports takes up of all of our attention is decreasing over time. The biggest esports prize pools in the world, Dota, is the biggest one of all time at $47 million for a prize pool. And they have been the king of prize pools now for, I'd say, close to a decade. No one has even come close to disrupting this. Other interesting statistics are predictions of esports revenue. It just keeps going steadily up each year by 6% per year. Roughly, we could say that it's tracking with global inflation. So it's not growing that fast. It's kind of growing at a middling pace. All right, so with this information, what we're seeing, generally speaking, is esports is largely dependent on advertising revenue. It's not growing as fast as it used to. And the global share of attention with esports versus mainstream gaming has kind of leveled off. And so what does this mean for esports? It means it's not the explosive growth new thing it used to be. It's just kind of starting to get into maturity and starting to kind of plateau. So the question for you, Luello, is Web2 esports is growing slower. Has the trend stalled out? And is there anything that's happening in Web3 that can accelerate esports once again to be on a rocket ship to Alpha Centauri?
I think, sorry, come on.
No, don't be sorry. We want to
Basically, the first thing I think is Illuvium isn't out yet, so that explains this. And
there you go. All right, thank you for your answer. We'll move on to the next guy. No, go ahead.
To be honest, it's hard to say. I think today people are looking for entertainment more than esports as like performance. You know, if I speak for myself, when I was a professional player, I used to have maybe between 4,000 and 5,000 viewers on Twitch, and it was going down and down till maybe 2,000, and then I stopped playing professionally. I started more making fun. My stream was an entertainment stream basically, and I saw my viewers going up again, and I went up to maybe 6,000 or 7,000 viewers when I was not at my best level, you know. So I think people today, I think what people are looking for today on the internet is changing, because when a game is new, people want to see the best players, but as the time goes, people are less and less interested in performances. They want entertainment. I think Dota has a big cash prize, you were saying before, because they have this very cool system of I think I'm not a Dota player, but I think they sell
Crowdfunding.
Skins. Yeah, it's basically.
Don't they sell like a
crowdfunding.
compendium and it's crowdfunded largely, and people buy a unique digital item to fund the prize pool? Yeah.
Exactly. And why I bring that up is because I think this very system is super interesting for Web3 gaming. I think NFT technology can be really useful in this system, you know. And we can say they have the biggest cash prize, so it might be the future of cash prizes in esports.
I like that idea quite a bit of, the crowd-funded esports prize pool. I mean, Illuvium's made a commitment to have the biggest esports prize pool ever, coming, in ILV tokens. But you're right, Dota is largest because it's crowd-funded and because they give everybody, it's not on the blockchain, but they give them a digital collectible, essentially, in exchange for contributing to the prize pool. That's a model that clearly works. Wouldn't it add extra value if you owned that digital collectible and it was on the blockchain? I really appreciate you pointing that out. And then one thing I wanted to bring up to your point, you don't just think attention is changing, from experience, and the numbers support what you're talking about. If we look at Twitch games right now, I predicted this 3 years ago that just chatting would become the biggest game on Twitch. It did. And here it is. It's bigger than every other game, including League of Legends, FIFA, Valorant, and every other title. And just chatting, though it has 13% of current viewership on Twitch, I predict that it will be 50% in the next 5 years. Maybe more. It might be 80%. We'll see. And I think that this is a larger trend, to your point, of people being less and less interested in video games streaming. Why would they be less interested in video game streaming? Hold on, that doesn't make sense. I thought streaming was the hottest thing and the newest thing, and everybody loves it. I think there's fatigue from viewers. They're tired of watching people play video games. There's not enough variety, and they quickly get tired of the game. And the novelty that was here 10 years ago, 14 years ago, when I started as a Twitch partner, of watching someone play a video game and having a chat on the side, the novelty's gone. We've chugged hundreds and thousands of hours of that type of content, and that's not interesting enough anymore. And I think that's a big reason why we're seeing just chatting explode as a category on Twitch, and why we're seeing things like gambling streams, hot tub streams with lots of boobies and all of that stuff come into play on platforms like Twitch. We can laugh about it, but people are succeeding doing that type of content now because video game streaming on Web 2 platforms isn't exciting to attract attention anymore. So, I know that's a hot take. Let me bring this up then. If esports revenue is largely dependent on sponsorship revenue, are we going to see it shift going into Web 3 esports? What's your opinion on that, Venomore? Is there going to be a revenue shift change? If attention is dropping in Web 2 and Web 2 streaming, does Web 3 revenue have some opportunity to innovate? We mentioned the Dota example. What do you think?
I think Lowello made a lot of really, really good points. Firstly, like with the fact that you can crowdfund the prize pool. Not only does Illuvium obviously have like a million ILV tokens to give out as yield and for like tournaments and all these different things, but you can essentially get people to buy into the tournament and make different types of tournaments like that. And it ends up being like watching a poker tournament in a sense, where there's there's a buy-in, a prize pool, a pay ladder, and it ultimately becomes like that, with obviously Illuvium funding some of these tournaments completely themselves, but also maybe having more regular tournaments where like people could be just playing every day, grinding, literally like for money, like mini tournaments, almost like little sit and goes or like things like that when like, you know, comparing it to poker. But the other thing that Lowello mentioned is that people are less and less interested in like competition and they're more interested in entertainment. And that's something we've also seen in like the boxing scene, where the biggest boxers in the world, like they're not necessarily the best, they're actually the most entertaining. You see that with like KSI,
Jake Paul
versus KSI.
Yeah.
Like how much money have they made from boxing compared to probably like the best boxer in the world that no one's ever heard of, right? That's a huge thing. So then it sort of becomes like actually hosting these huge invitationals and like different types of like these guys have a beef, like challenge them, you know, Kieran versus Grant for $1 million. You know, that was like, for me, that was huge. I was watching that. I was on the edge of my seat. And watching like that kind of like more entertainment competition, I think that's also very, very interesting. But there also comes a difference where you like, even if people don't necessarily enjoy watching like maybe just a single person playing a game over and over, unless they're really trying to like learn, they like creators actually collaborating and making stuff together, like that's actually huge, and it's genuinely entertaining to watch. I remember chatting to Godson when he first came into our space, and he was like, yeah, no, I've like, what's going on here? Like in Web 2, as a huge Web 2 creator, like we all never spoke to each other. We just made videos ourselves. We did our best to be the best at what we did, and we were competing. And he was so confused because we were all helping each other and like supporting each other as creators. And that's what's been huge, is like the explosive growth that any creator can have in this space just by collaborating, getting involved, and there's those opportunities as well. So I think in Web3, there's going to be a lot of different ways to play it, and there's also the fact that you can potentially like there's money in the system to do different things. There's coaching that's totally unheard of almost, except on the like higher echelons of pro esports in when it comes to Web2 gaming. Coaching suddenly a genuine thing that like, well, if I'm like really enjoying this game, but I want to spend a few extra hours a day playing it, I might as well learn to be a bit better at it, because there's potential money on the line here.
Well, and parents paying for their kids to get coaching for Fortnite, people laughed. It's like, look, it's like paying these days, it's like paying for a piano teacher used to be back in the day, or teaching, or a private tutor, or a private soccer coach for your kid if you want your kid to be great at soccer. Collaboration in Web3, that's the big special thing I think we're seeing here that's really taking off, and that's the big trend. I mean, look at this. That's the reason why I created this show for Illuvium. I brought all of you guys in here because I wanted to collaborate on content. It makes the content way more interesting than if I was just yelling at the camera the whole time, though I know you all would love it. Vulcan, let me ask you this question. If viewership is plateauing in Web2 games, people just want to see hot tub streams and boobies, then what does Web3 bring that is going to be exciting and it's going to reinvigorate viewership once more to bring the novelty back of watching gaming streaming content? Loaded question.
Web3 supplied hot tubs, I guess, and then we're good. So
tokenized hot tubs.
No, to be honest, like I think the whole Twitch scene, it's like if you look at audience on gaming, it's mainly dudes, young dudes, and they're susceptible to that, and like that sort of stuff makes sense. And then you move into the gambling streams and stuff like that, and I don't want this to be a reason, but like the stakes on gambling, I think maybe why, like I don't watch gambling streams. I hate gambling in general. Like myself, like I've never bet on sports or anything like that. But I think the stakes involved in things can make it more interesting. And I think Web3 allowing more prize money and stuff like that will increase the stakes. However, the games still have to be popular enough. The funny thing that I saw when you were showing all the, the top esports games and stuff like that, none of them are high revenue generating games either. When you compare it to like things like mobile games and stuff like that, like I'm just looking here, I just quickly Googled it, like Genshin Impact, it's not even 2 years old. It's a mobile game crossed with PC. It's made $3.7 billion in just under 2 years. So like some of the revenues that these more casual games are generating is ridiculous compared to the, like when you look at, there's Genshin there. Like some
revenue generating games are not getting the top spots in terms of esports viewership and entertainment viewership, but they are getting the top spots in terms of how much cash they're bringing to the bottom line every month.
Yes, and like a lot of these are PvE only games, casual games, no room for an esports scene even. So I think if Web3 allows that more competitive nature of like sort of like I always refer to it as like trading card games where yes, you got to spend money so it generates more revenue, but then it has a much more competitive scene and can reach wider adoption, then you have more revenue for those competitions, and then it increases the stakes and makes things a bit more exciting. I think that could have an impact, but overall, I just think at the moment, from what I'm seeing anyway, I just feel like gamers are more casual. Like back in the day, like I used to sit down and watch competitive WoW players stream just arena games. Like I just have that on my screen all day. I absolutely loved it. But I feel like that's where games were back then. And I think a lot more gaming is getting heavily casual compared to the competitive scene. So that's also just a steady thing. And I don't know if Web3 will make, esports bigger than it is. But yeah, I just see that as a trend. Being casual is becoming more prominent, and it's easier to play a game casual is another thing, I think, than to try and play competitive, get stomped, and then just be sad about sucking. So yeah, it's an interesting one. There's a lot of psychology behind it, but yeah.
I'm going to give Luello the final word on this one. And there's a great comment here from Sun Wu saying, financial incentive. Fantasy football draws people to the NFL or college football or any sport that wouldn't otherwise be drawn because they have some money on the line. They have some kind of pseudo gambling or just straight up gambling aspect to how they're interacting with the game. And they now have like a horse in the race, if you will. They care if that running back scored a touchdown. They care if that player performs or doesn't perform. They care if teams they never gave any shits about win or lose because they have some incentive on the line. So do you see the same thing playing out with Web3 and with gambling or pseudo gambling mechanics here in esports moving forward?
I'm not sure I understand. I understand what he said on the comment said.
But basically, the comment is things like fantasy football or sports betting, like DraftKings and what have you, add a lot more interest to traditional sports or traditional competitions where people care about players and teams they would never care about. They have like 3 TVs going. They have to go to a sports bar to see all the games going on because they've got $500 on the line with their buddies at work or whatever. So do you see that sort of gambling aspect, pseudo gambling aspect, or even tokens, NFTs, some financial incentive in Web3 esports or the future of esports driving more interest around esports?
I don't know about driving more interest because, to be honest, I think what is really strange to me today and wasn't a few years ago is the fact in all of those big names we saw on your screen, like League of Legends, Fortnite, when you buy a skin, when you buy anything, a weapon, whatever, you don't own what you buy. And when people start understanding this, I think mass adoption will come. I don't think gambling will be the main reason people will come to Web3 gaming. I don't believe in that. I think mass adoption will come in many other ways. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And the esports scene, we are all looking forward to the esports scene of Illuvium because, as you said, there are big things coming.
Okay, so gambling isn't going to be the big driver.
Can I just jump in on that one?
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Here we go. I'll take. No. It's like, to me, it's also like if gambling and that sort of related stuff is what we need to expand esports and stuff like that, it's a kind of a sad thing when you consider the demographic of people that are in gaming. And you know what I mean? I get there's older people, but there's a heavy amount of young people that are involved. And if we start and if it becomes a gambling aspect that starts, being pushed on the agenda, I just don't think that's a good thing overall.
I don't disagree with you. I think gambling should be for adults, and there's a reason why there's gambling regulation. So I agree. I don't want my 7-year-old daughter gambling in video games. And that's why I've been critical publicly of gaming companies literally putting slot machines into games rated E for everyone. NBA 2K being an example, where they literally have an effing slot machine inside their basketball game. It's disgusting. So anyway, we agree on that point. Let's go to shout-outs. Vetamore, do you have a YouTube channel or something? And should people subscribe?
They if they like it, if they enjoy the content. It's just Vetamore at Illuvium. You can also find me on Twitter at VetamoreILV.
Yes. Search that on Google, YouTube. Also, link in the description below. Luello, I've heard that you stream and people like it, thousands of people. So where can people check you out and see what you do each and every day?
Actually, all my content is in French. We work on a lot of things, but we also created a guild, which is a bridge basically between Web 2 and Web 3 gaming. We make tournaments, we make a lot of things. It's called MVP. You can find it on Twitter. I can put it here for you, Andrew, if you want to put it in the chat. Yeah, you are. It's an international guild, so it's in English. You are all welcome to visit.
Perfect. I just put that link in chat and I'll add it to the description on YouTube. Thank you. And then Vulcan, I know you operate the largest children's gambling site in Web3, but what else do you do that you want people to check out?
Not too much, man. Just chill. Nah, you'll have the links in there. It's all good. Yeah, YouTube, Twitter, that stuff. It's all good.
It's Vulcan. Follow Vulcan. If you Googled Illuvium, you probably saw him. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on the episode, and thank you everyone for watching this episode and listening to this episode of IlluviTalks. We'll see you at the exact same time next week with new guests, new topics, and new insights. I guarantee, look, I'll give you your money back, but I guarantee you learned at least 2 new things in this episode. You know I'm right. See you next week. Keep learning. Adios.